Hey, Pastor Josh here. We are reading Exodus chapter 15, verses 19 through 27. How quick do you grumble? How fast do you find yourself complaining, especially after there has been some sort of success, something go well in your life or in your day? And what does it take to make you grumble again? The Israelites are going to waste no time after this great Red Sea crossing, this great destruction of Pharaoh himself, seeing the mighty hand of God work. They're going to waste no time and grumble almost immediately. So let's get into our reading. Verse 19. When the horses of Pharaoh with his chariots and his horsemen went into the sea, the Lord brought back the waters of the sea upon them. But the people of Israel walked on dry ground in the midst of the sea. So you see the distinction between the people of God and the Egyptians. The Egyptians, when they go through the Red Sea swallows them up. But when the people of Israel go through the Red Sea, they are actually walking on dry ground. God is taking care of them. Then, after they pass through, Miriam, the prophetess, the sister of Aaron and the sister of Moses, took a tambourine in her hand, and all the women went out after her with tambourines and dancing. And Miriam sang to them, "Sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider he has thrown into the sea." And that, of course, is the song that we just heard. And so there is the great victory. There's the great celebration of the victory. And you would think this marvelous act of God would prevent them from ever grumbling or complaining again. Surely they would continually trust the Lord with all of their heart. Well, that is not the case. Let's see what happens. Verse 22. Then Moses made Israel set out from the Red Sea. It is interesting that it's almost like the Israelites did not want to leave the Red Sea, in almost rejoicing and basking in the glory of the Lord in his great act of judgment on the Egyptians. But Moses had to make the Israelites set out from the Red Sea, and they went into the wilderness of Shur. They went 3 days in the wilderness, and they found no water. Oh boy, we have a problem here. No water. They're in the wilderness. They're in a deserted area, not looking like this is a good situation. Verse 23. When they came to Marah, they could not drink the water of Marah because it was bitter. Therefore it was named Marah, which that's what Marah means, is bitterness. So imagine this sight. They come to Marah and they see water. The problem that they had before is that they found no water. So they're going 3 days, no water, no water, no water. And then they come to Marah and they see some water. And I'm sure they are so excited. They're so thirsty. They're so parched. And they run after this water and they put their faces in the water and just start uh, um, drinking it down and guzzling it down. And when they put it in their mouth, they find out that it is bitter, it is salty, it is nasty. And what do the people do? The people grumbled. This, of course, is a sin for us to avoid, to grumble against the Lord, to complain against the Lord. Oh, it's a bad attitude that can cause all kinds of terrible problems in our lives. The people grumbled against Moses, saying, "What shall we drink? We've not had anything to drink for 3 days, and now we've come to this place with this water, and it is bitter." And what does Moses do in verse 25? He cried to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a log, and he threw it into the water, and the water became sweet. So we see God's provision. Let's take this log and let's throw it into the water, and then the water becomes sweet. And then right there at Marah, the Lord made for them a statute and a rule, and there he tested them, saying, "If you will diligently listen to the voice of the Lord your God, and do that which is right in his eyes, and give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of the diseases on you that I put on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord your healer." So 2 things that we need to observe and look at is that God tells them, gives them a command. He says, if you diligently listen to the voice of the Lord your God. Of course, that is a command that we need to obey. Diligently listen to the voice of the Lord. And then attached to this command is a promise. And the promise is that the Israelites would not experience any of the diseases that God put on the Egyptians. That is the promise. If they obey the voice of the Lord, then they will not receive any of the punishments and the plagues that the Egyptians experienced. Now, what this setup is what theologians have called the law. And they make a distinction between the law and grace. Law and grace. Law says if you do this, then things will go well. You will be blessed. You will receive God's favor. Indeed, that was what was given to Adam and Eve. Don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That was law. And then what we will see as we get closer to Mount Sinai and the 10 Commandments are given along with the rest of the commandments, we're going to see that there is law. And there is this great promise to Israel that if they obey the Lord, then they're going to get to stay in the land and experience all kinds of blessings from the Lord. But I know you've read your Bible enough to realize that the Israelites did not keep their end of the bargain. They did not diligently listen to the voice of the Lord their God. They did not follow the commands of the Lord diligently. And in fact, they did experience the plagues and the punishments of Egypt as the Assyrians would come and take over them, and Babylon would come in behind and take over them. They would suffer a mighty feat. In fact, it happens even way before that in the book of Judges. In fact, a lot of the Old Testament post Sinai and post the Exodus is the Israelites being told that they should obey God and follow God, and if they do, they'll be blessed. And every single time they fail. They just don't do it. And that's why we need grace, because that's what God gives us. We cannot obey the law. We do not have it within our capacity to fully and diligently listen to the voice of the Lord our God. We should do that. That is a good command for us to obey, but we also need to realize that we will never do it perfectly and earn any sort of blessings that we get, but rather we receive grace. It's Christ's work on the cross that gives us all the blessings that we have. And when we understand that, we are much better off. And so this is one of the first big times that the Lord is going to say, if you do this, then I will bless you. And we're going to see this just encapsulated in the law. And this is indeed one of the main things that the Apostle Paul really tries to get us to understand in his New Testament letters, is when he says that we are not under law, but we are now under grace. Not saying that the law is bad. That's not what the Apostle Paul says. But he says we don't operate according to law. You do what you're supposed to do and then you get blessed. Instead, we actually are blessed because Jesus perfectly fulfilled the law. I hope that makes sense to you. But indeed, we even see it prior to this, that the people are grumbling even right after they've experienced this great blessing. And then they come to Elim, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, and they encamped there by the water. That's very interesting, is that right after this place of bitterness, there is this great place of blessing. 12 springs of water, there's 70 palm trees. It's just a wonderful, glorious place. And here they were grumbling, and just right on the other side there is going to be intense blessings for them. I pray that's been a blessing to you. I pray you won't be grumbling, and that you'll experience and receive the grace that God offers to you. And I'll see you all in the next video.